Kalkadosh Boker Or Masechet Batra Daf Yomi Daf Kuf Lametet Amud Aleph 139a1. We're going to start on the Mishnah on 138b. The Mishnah says Ha'av Tolesh Uma'achil Lechol Mi Shirtzeh. A father could come and he could take a fruit from the field, he could pluck it out, right, and give it to eat whoever he wants, as long as he's alive. Umashe niach talush, and whatever he left detached at the time of his death, harehu shelo yoshim, right? It belongs to the yoshim. It doesn't belong to the person that he gave as a present, right? So therefore, he could give whatever he wants, but it's during his lifetime. During his lifetime, he could come and he could take the rents. He could give it as a present to a nephew, to a this, to a cousin, it doesn't matter. It's up to him. But whatever he left attached at the time of his death goes to his children. Detached, yes. Yeah. Says the Gemara, talush in mechubar lo. He says, what? Are you going to deduce that it's only tlushim, which means something which is detached? That goes to the yoshim. But if it's going to be attached, right, it's not going to be shayach to the yoshim, but only to the one that gets the present. What's going on? How does that make sense? Huh? That's what we're saying. If it's detached from the ground, it goes to the yoshim. But if it's attached, it's going to go to the guy that he gave a present to. That doesn't make sense.
It makes more sense the other way around.
Ah, exactly. Ve'atanya, we learned in a Braita, shamin et mechubarin lalokeach. Right? It says in a Braita, we're talking about there that the son sold the properties, and then afterwards the father died, and he left, right, the field in the fruits connected. We're going, the lokeach is not zoche in those fruits, so therefore we're going to come and evaluate how much is the fruits worth, and then he has to pay that amount to the yorshim. So Amarula, so it comes out that basically the son is also going to be, right, that's what he's saying over here. There's a stira to that which we said beforehand, because if right now the purchaser bought the rights from the son, he still doesn't get the fruits which are connected. So Amarula says, like a question. Kan bivno, bekan be'acher. Our Mishnah is talking about fruits which are attached. They belong to the person that received the present. We're talking about the one that's the son that's giving it. So therefore, since the properties are still in the hands of the son and he didn't give it to anybody else, so therefore it goes to the other person, to the one that's receiving the present. Here in the Braita, we're talking about where the son came and he sold it to somebody else. In such a case where he sold it to somebody else, when the person gave the properties to the son, he's actually maknelo the perot which are already attached. Meaning he's giving him as an acquisition the fruits which are already attached. Right? Because since the person has got his dat always to his son, that he wants to give his son always everything, right? So therefore it's going to always go to him. But if it's going to be somebody else that's acquiring it, we don't say such a thing, and therefore it's going to go back to the person, right, to the family members. Okay? Fine. Mishnah. Kuf lamed tet amud aleph, 139a on the top. Mishnah. Hiniach banim gedolim uktanim. If you leave older children and younger children, so obviously the gdolim are not going to be mitparnesim from clothing and everything, right, from the Yerusha of the ktanim, meaning, sorry, thank you, that the younger ones are not going to come and meaning they are not going to lose out because the older ones want to come and start putting on fancy clothing and all these things, right? Right? Al cheshbon gdolim. And the ktanim are not going to come, and they're not going to be taking parnasa from the gdolim also, food. Ela cholkim b'shaveh. We divide everything equally between the older ones and the younger ones. Nasu gdolim, right? Just like when they come and they get married, the older ones, right? And let's say they took the money from the property, the estate, in order to get married. Nasu ktanim also. This is the younger ones. But if the ktanim come and they say, we want to come and get married just like you got married, en shomin lahem. We don't listen to them, but rather whatever the father gave, natan. Meaning that let's say the father came in the first few marriages, they were the older ones, so he came and he spent, I don't know what amount. And now the younger ones come and they say, we want a wedding just like the older ones. Yeah, but the father already passed away. We don't listen to them. Whatever the father left over, that's what there's left. You don't, yeah? No, the same halacha would apply now with the girls. He left older girls and younger girls. So the gdolot are not going to be mitparnesot through the ktanot. The exact same halacha. We divided equally between everybody. Now, so gdolot, if the older ones got married, so ktanot, the younger ones also get married as well. But if the ktanot say that we want to get married just like the older ones, we don't listen to them. So what the chumra by daughters is more than the sons, because until now it sounded the exact same. Everything was the exact same. That was just like copy paste. Just fill in the blank. Instead of boys, it was girls. So he says, Shima banot nizonot ala banim. Venizonot alabanot. the girls, right? The banot are going to be nizonet al cheshbon the banim, but the banim are never going to be nizonet, meaning the banot are not going to be nizonet al cheshbon banot, which means like this. Let's say, for example, there's boys. There's also girls. The girls get parnasa, they get food as long as they're going to be not married. They continue el cheshbon the banim, right? On account of the boys. Meaning the boys are going to be losing out because they're coming in every single week or whatever it is, right? Now again, we're not talking about that they're using lavish amounts and all these things. You understand? We're not talking about right, but the minimum, what they get, that's what they get. But that you don't say that when it's going to be the girls and girls. Because there we just said that everyone's getting divided equally. Okay, that was the Mishnah. Okay, says the Gemara. Amar Rava. Rava says, Hai gadol ache. He says, what was the gadol achim? Right? The lavash yikase mi beta. That he's coming and he's dressing himself from the property. My avad, avad. Whatever he does, he does. Meaning, imagine you have the eldest, that he's the one that's running the family business. And he comes and blah, blah, blah. He gets himself a nice suit, right? A nice watch, a nice this. He gets himself all these nice things. Whatever he does, he does. Now, obviously, why? Because obviously it's a toilet that he looks very good in order to come and start doing the business. Yeah. So says the Gemara, he says, 1 second, but I thought that our Mishnah said that you don't do that. I already thought that our Mishnah says that it doesn't work. So answers the Gemara, Matzniti, our Mishnah is talking about Beshircha. We're talking about an Adam Batel, that he's not being Nosev and Notem Yerusha. So therefore, they're not gaining anything, that this guy is just, a Batlan, right? He's a Batlan, he's not doing anything. So what is he coming and dressing himself from the state? What's he doing over here? It's not good. Yeah, Shircha says the Gemara, Pshita, obviously then. So he says, no, I would have thought to say, let nicha lehu deloni naval. They don't want that the eldest brother should look like a slump, slumper, like a misken, so they don't want that. Kamashmalan comes teach you that at the end of the day, right, it's the same thing. There's no permission to come and to take from everybody, because since there's no real benefit that they get in the fact that he's going to be dressing well, they don't get any. Okay, next part of the Mishnah. The elders got married, the older girls, right, the older boys got married to women. So to the younger ones, Micah, what does that mean exactly? Rav Yehuda says, if the elder ones got married after the death of the father, so if everybody was done afterwards, meaning whatever done was before, that you can't talk about, because if the father spent a fortune before, but now he passed away, so there's nothing to do. But let's say after the father's death, that's when everybody comes and they're getting married. So therefore, the younger ones could get married just like the older ones. Right? But if the older ones got married during the lifetime of the father, and then the younger ones come and after the father's death, they want to get married the same way, and we're not going to listen to them, but whatever the father gave to them, natan. Fine. Next 2 dots. Okay. So what happens right now if he left older daughters and younger daughters? Shalach le'avua bagniva l'Rava. Sent avua bagniva to Rava. Yelamdenu Rabbenu. Right? Our master should teach, our teacher should teach us. Yeah, lavta ve'achla. What happens if you have a case where a woman comes, she's borrowing money, right? Balpe, and then she's eating it. Ve'amda v'niset, and then she comes and she gets married, right? And she brings in all the properties to, right, the husband. Bal lokeach have or yorash have? Do you say that what is the bal? What is the husband? Is he considered like a purchaser, or is he considered an inheritor? Right? Now, obviously, right? Okay, she could actually bring into the properties, and then it goes back to her, obviously. Okay, fine. So now what happens is the Gemara is asking, is the zechut of the Baal considered like he bought it or he inherited it? What's nafkamina? Milva balpe, right? Yeah, so that's nexemelu. But here the question is, it's milva balpe, right? And there's other ones as well. But basically, the question is since this is a debt, but since this is a borrowing, but it's only done by mouth, it's not written down, doesn't have the same characteristics. So now the question is, that's why there's going to be an afkamina. What is he considered? Is he considered a purchaser? So he came, the husband. Is he considered a purchaser, or is he considered an inheritor? Lokeach have, now we're going to explain what is a doubt. Lokeach have, you're going to tell me that he's a purchaser, and therefore milva alpen and therefore milva alpen never collects from a purchaser. Meaning, if you right now came and you borrowed money, but it was an oral borrowing. There was no witnesses. There's no document. So everything was done by mouth. So therefore, in such a case, right? You cannot come and collect from a purchaser. Why? Because how's he gonna know? He's not gonna know that he had a debt, he had a lien on something. So if he doesn't know, listen, he purchased it, you can't take it away from him. So if you're gonna tell me that the husband's like a purchaser, this guy is gonna lose out. But if you're gonna tell me that he's considered an inheritor, mil ve'alpeh govim yoshim, right? A mil ve'alpeh, you do collect from the yoshim, from the inheritors. So Elmaleh, he comes and he tells him, Tanina, we already learned it once. Now, sugudolo yisuk tanot. My lover, we're not talking about sugudolo baal, that they already got married to a husband. Yisuk tanot mi baal, and we're talking about now they're going to come and get married to a husband. So therefore, we're talking about, right, that it should be the same thing. So therefore, it comes out that he should be considered a yuresh, an inheritor. Because if you're going to tell me right now that they got married to a husband, this is like considered like a milveh. This is considered like a loan, because the younger children also want, right, to. So 1 second. The girls are coming and taking the properties to their husbands. But 1 second, but the younger girls want to get married. So if that's considered like something al peh, which is basically going to be by mouth, that they want to get married. So when this older daughter came and she took in properties to her husband, if you're going to tell me that it's going to be a yuresh, right? So therefore they should be able to collect it. They should be able to come and collect what's going on. Girl. Yes. Exactly. So therefore, obviously, it's more mashma according to Rava that what? That they're considered inherited. Answers the Gemara, lo, it's not true. Nisuk dolot lebal, yisuk tanot lebal. What does that mean? We're talking about that the older girls got married, right, to their husbands, and so to the younger ones also the same thing, right? That means they're taking the exact same amounts, right? They're taking the exact same amounts, and that's what they're trying to get married. One second, right? So therefore, in such a case, right, what we're trying to say though is that if right now everybody's taking the same thing, there's no problem. So says Gemara, "Eni is it so?" Vatari, we learned from Chia, "Nasugdolo lebal yisuktono mibal." What does that mean, right? Just like when the ketanot are going to get married, right? They can actually collect, right, from the husbands of the older ones. So it comes out that it's a yoresh because they can actually collect from the older girls, from the husbands. So answers the Gemara, no. Dilma shane parnasa dilekala. There it's parnasa, because there we're not talking about for marriage. There we're talking about they need food to eat. There, they could collect from the older sisters, even though they're married already. They could collect for parnasa because there's a call, right? There's a call. There's something. And listen, at the end of the day, they have to feed the younger sisters. They can't just come and get married and leave the younger girls, right? Starving. Yeah, it doesn't make sense. So Elmaleh Rav Papa Rava says Rav Papa to Rava. Wasn't that the question that he sent in a letter? He says, somebody that died and he left an almana and a daughter. Almanato nizon min nechasav, right? The almana is going to be nizon min nechasav. Niseta bat, if the daughter, right, got married. Almanato nizon min nechasav. Meta bat, if the daughter died. Amar Rav Yehuda ben achoto shel Yosef Chanina. There was a story with him. V'amru, and they said almanato, right, of the father is nizon min nechasav. That means even after the death of the daughter, the widow is still taking from the properties. So, if you're going to tell me now the Yoresh Havi, that he's considered a Yoresh, meaning the husband is considered a Yoresh, that's why the Almanah continues taking from the properties. But if you're going to tell me that the Baal, the husband, is considered Lokeach, why is she Nizonu min Chosav? At the end of the day, an Almanah never collects from the Lekuchot. She never collects from properties like that. So it has to be, it's a proof that it's Yoresh, it's an inheritor. Yeah? So Amar Abaye says, if it wasn't for the fact that Ravin sent this letter, I wouldn't have known. He says, what? You think you would have known? But now we learned it. There are certain properties that don't go back in Yovel. Bechora. The chelek of Bechora never goes back in Yovel. Or somebody that inherits his wife. Meaning by the Jubilee, usually the halacha is by Yovel, that's Jubilee. Yeah? That's the English word for it. I have to say it for him. Right? For Rick. Right? Right, for Richard to understand what Yovel is. Right? For the Yovel, everything goes back to its original owners. Chelek of Bechor, the firstborn portion, does not go back. He keeps his portion forever and ever. Le'ol me'ad. Lanetzach. Yeah? This, and also Yoreshet Ishto, somebody inherits his wife. Somebody that inherits his wife, it doesn't go back to the family of the wife at all. Right? You like that? Yeah. Okay, fine. Yeah? Why don't you like that? It's somebody that's inheriting his wife, not that his wife is inheriting him. Yeah? So Elmaleh Rava, says Rava to Abaye, the hashta de shalach, but now that you just sent me adina, do we know? האמר רבי יוסף חנינא, באושה התקינו, they instituted אושה, האישה שמכרה מניסי מלוג בחיי בעלה, ומתה הבעל מוציא מן הלקוחות. That the woman, if she's going to sell her מניסי מלוג during the lifetime of the husband, you do take it out of the לקוחות. Something incredible. Remember one more time, this woman had properties. She gets married. Those properties are now subjugated to the husband. They're called nichse melug. Well, whatever. Let's say there was never a husband. Doesn't matter. She gets married. It goes to the husband. So now the husband gets the fruits. She comes and she sells it. She comes, she sells the field. And then what happens? She dies. The husband goes to the lekuchot. Give it back to me. And he takes it. He takes it. Yeah, he takes it. So he says from here, Ela Marvashi, brother Ravashi says, Baal Shavyu Rabbanan Kyoresh, Shavyu Rabbanan Kelokeach, Vehechid Tavale Avdale. What does that mean? He says, you know what? The husband, sometimes he's like an inheritor, and sometimes he's like a purchaser, right? And therefore the Rabbanan, right? And that's what they're saying. And therefore, in any place, we always go for good of the husband, meaning he always has the upper hand. So sometimes the husband's a purchaser, and sometimes the husband's an inheritor. Whatever's the best. That's what we're saying. Legabe Yovel, to do with Yovel, they made him like an inheritor. And because of Peseda Didei, because we don't want him to lose out. Legabe to do with Nikseh Melug, we made him like a purchaser because of Peseda Didei. And to do with Ravin, right? So one more time. To do with Yovel, we made him an inheritor. By inheritance, since it doesn't go back by Yovel, it stays for them forever. So the husband inherits the wife, stays for him forever. Why? He's an inheritor. To do with Nikseh Melug, right? Rabbi Yosef Chanina, we considered him a purchaser. Because since he's considered a purchaser, there's already a lien on the property, and therefore, if this woman came and she sold us Nikseh Melug to somebody else, the husband could come and take it away. Take it out of them. Why? I purchased it first. It belongs to me. Takes it out. To do with Ravi. Which one? No. To do with the Yovel was the concept of the Yoresh, that you're considered an inheritor. And since you're an inheritor, it doesn't go back in Yovel. Yovel only goes back something that you sold, not something you inherited. Right? To do with the concept of the Nikseh Melug, thank you. To do with Nikseh Melug, there we consider him like a purchaser. So therefore, since he's considered a purchaser, when she comes and she sells the Nikseh Melug, and she wasn't supposed to, he comes to the guy and says, I'm sorry, give it back to me. Why? I'm a purchaser. I purchased it from my wife. And therefore, it's subjugated to me before it's subjugated to you. So he takes it back. To do with the case of Ravin, which is basically the almanah taking from the property of the husband, right? Even though the daughter already came, she got married, and then she died, and then the husband wants to collect it and everything, it's because of the Peseda Dalmanah. Right? Because, so therefore we came and we made him into a Yoresh. So he says, because of the Ifsed, which is going to be caused to the Almanah, because if he was considered a purchaser, right, she would lose out. So therefore we made him into an inheritor. And once he's an inheritor, so therefore again, that means the husband is never going to lose out. So therefore that's why she's able to continue coming and eating from the property. So says the Gemara, he says, 1 second, but you have the lots of the lekuchot. He says, no. Hatam inu of there, the lekuchot, they made themselves lose. Why? Kevin the kabal, since there's a husband, why are they buying a field from a woman if she's married? Right. They should have already thought, 1 second, she has a husband, and the husband usually gets everything. So for they were the ones that made themselves lose. So since they were the ones that made themselves lose, we always go for the best of the husband, and therefore the husband always has the upper hands. Adran alach yesh nochalin. What? New chapter, Perek Tishi'i. Okay, we're starting the 9th Perek. Okay, we're talking about Tnai Ketubah, Mishemet V'iniach Banim Ubanot, a person that passes away and he leaves the boys and girls. Bizman Shenechasim Merubin, if there's a lot of properties, Habanim Yirshu, the boys are going to take the inheritances, V'banot Yizonu, and the girls are going to take food. Nechasim Muatin, if there's only little properties, Habanot Yozunu, Habanim Yishalu B'tachim. So then the girls are going to be taking the parnasah, and then the boys have to go start knocking on people's doors for parnasah, for food to eat. Admon Omer said, Admon, Yishvil Shani Zachar Ifsati. Says, what? Because I'm a boy, I'm going to lose out. So Amar Gamliel said, Gamliel, Roe Ani Divrei Admon. I like the words of Rabbi of Divrei Admon. Yeah, I like the words of Divrei Admon. Yeah. Okay. Let's see. Says the Gemara, V'kama merubin. What does it mean now? The person left a lot of properties. Amar Rav Yudam says, Rav Kadesh Yezono Mehen Elu Ve'elu 12 Chodesh. We're talking about that there has to be enough for 12 months of parnasah for everybody. When they said this in front of Shmuel, Amar, he said, Zudim Gamliel bar Rabbi, these are words of Gamliel bar Rabbi, Aval Chachamim say, Kadesh Yezono Mehen Elu Ve'elu Achivgeru, that they have to have parnasah until they become bogrot. What does it mean? Remember, the bulgeret is 12 and a half, right? Remember, 12 is until 12, she's a ktana. 12 to 12 and a half, she's a na'ara. And then after 12 and a half, she becomes a bogeret. Itmar Nami was also stated Kiata Rabbi Yochanan when Kiata Ravi when Ravi came from Eretzel to Bavel it said the name of Yochanan the Amni Lan simple says Rabbi Yochanan name of Yochanan Kol Shizromen Elu Vel Shivgru until they become Bogrot, right? Bogeret, the Banot and the Banim Hen Merubin, it's considered Merubin. But if it's going to be less, it's going to be considered Mu'atin. It's going to be less. Ilekana, if you do not have enough properties Lelu Velu Ad Shivgru until they become Igru Shaklu Banot Lekulu, the girls take everything. And then obviously we'll continue from tomorrow.